I could tell from the title of your video that there was going to be interesting content within, and I was not disappointed. The statement that atheists live in Bizarro world itself is indicative of the kind of arguments that would soon follow. Before I begin, I would like to point out that I'm not entirely sure what you mean when you claim that atheists cannot live out a postmodern worldview in reality, but I can assure you that there is no mutual inclusion between postmodernism and atheism. Atheism is simply the rejection of God claims, and as I will likely have to point out again later, is not a collective. The atheist movement is concerned mostly with secularism, pointing out the instances in which the state has unfairly endorsed religion, and spreading the awareness of what our position actually is. This cause of spreading awareness is all the more justified by your apparent lack of any kind of understanding of what atheism is at all. The bulk of your video involves you mentioning anecdotes of untraceable instances where atheists seem to behave ignorantly. Firstly, without any real citations, it has no relevance. But even if you were able to point to a multitude of instances where atheists essentially closed their eyes and covered their ears and unfairly declared victory, it wouldn't matter. Being an atheist does not cause you to inherit the responsibilities and debts of other atheists, nor does it have even the slightest bearing on the actual position itself. Anyone with the slightest initiative can read the comments and titles of any videos on the topic of creationism and see that both sides have their fair share of ignorance and stubbornness, but does this have any relevance to the actual argument? Of course not. The greatest irony is that you are claiming that it is a trend amongst atheists to behave this way as if it actually mattered, yet you do not seem to acknowledge that people who share your position are equally, arguably more inclined to do so themselves. Is this itself not an example of closing your eyes, covering your ears, and declaring victory where there is none to be had? It also seems that you are unfamiliar with the nature of debates, so I would invite you to open a few and read the comments, without even watching the debate itself. There will always be people on both sides who will interpret their position as the winning one, especially with debates on the topic of atheism versus creationism. In conclusion, statements such as atheists hate God, and since atheists cannot crucify Jesus, they try to crucify me instead, only show how severely lacking you are in understanding about atheism. And as a personal note, I would be humiliated to make such careless overgeneralizations based on such pointless, worthless anecdotes. For someone who claims themselves to be intellectually unbeatable, you should consider your arguments more carefully before espousing them.